Games podcast. You just heard the voice of God because that's Simo doing. Oh, he can't hear you. Talking to me, and you guys can't hear him. I thought you could hear the voice of God. Okay, God is a mute today, but Simo is there. Everybody, thank him for helping and doing the technical producing of this wonderful podcast. We've got podcast episode 34 for you here today, and I've got a wonderful cast of characters, some of them familiar, some of them maybe you know them but not their face. Of course, as usual, I've got Miss Catherine Smith-Desbiens, my partner in crime, with me.
Hello.
Yeah. How you doing, Kat?
I'm good. I'm a bit restless tonight, so I think I'm gonna actually dance through the whole thing.
That's okay. We can have a dance party. Sounds pretty good. And Catherine Ashley, are you going to join in on this dance party? How you doing?
I'm good. Drinking water.
For the folks who don't know him or his face, because you usually see him tweet and talk with us in chat, this is Craig from Craig's Cinema Corner, who is not only a wonderful video game nerd like the rest of us, he also happens to be a movie critic. So we thought, who best to come talk video game movies with us than Craig? So thank you for joining us, Craig.
That is a wonderful introduction. Thank you. I'll even do my little jig in there too. I'm very humbled and thankful to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem. So obviously we're going to be a little movie heavy here today, but we've got the usual hot news and all that jazz. But to get it all started, we've got some really special, cool news happening. So, as many of you know, we've been collecting donations for a while now and trying to get to Fan Expo. And we were doing pretty good. You guys are awesome. You've been donating tons of money to us, and we love you forever for it. But we needed a little extra boost, and the wonderful folks at Ubisoft decided that they'd love for us to go cover their event happening, or show floor stuff happening at Fan Expo. So, we will be at Fan Expo. Myself, Catherine Smith-Desbiens, Catherine Ashley, 8-Bit Blonde, Allie, and also our Toronto correspondent, Stephanie. So, it's going to be awesome. You're going to be a 5-girl team over there in Toronto, you know, Montrealers, one Torontonian, kicking it. Learning all the good stuff and giving you all the good stuff coming straight out of Ubisoft from Fan Expo show floor. If you haven't seen it, on our website last week I posted an article about all the cool stuff that's going down for Ubisoft at Fan Expo, which includes us getting hands-on with Just Dance 2016, Rainbow Six Siege, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and for the first time in Canada, The Division. So, stay tuned. Next week, we're going to be flooding you with cool stuff. And we're going to be like tweeting and periscoping and playing games and producing videos and content and everything. It's going to be nuts. And it's
Leah,
all
can
guys.
podcast cast guests come too?
No.
Then you have my permission to spend my hard-earned donation money on booze and food while there.
Stop. That will happen. We buy a drink
Awesome.
on Craig. That's
Very
awesome.
good.
So,
on my behalf.
yes. So our podcast technical producer Simo is like dying in the background laughing. It's pretty hilarious. It makes everybody giggle. Making everybody giggle. So yes, if you are going to be in Toronto area and you're going to be at Fan Expo, come to the Ubisoft booth and check it all out. Plus, if you see us kicking around the show floor, say hi, come have a hug, take a picture, do all that jazz. Because yeah, we want to meet everybody we can, and it's gonna be a fun time. So with that being said, next week we might do a little change around. Instead of Indie Spotlight, we might try and do a sleepover style podcast live from Fan Expo. Which would be kind of cool. All the girls hanging out in the hotel room. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be hilarious. Talking about all the cool Ubisoft stuff that we saw that day. So yeah, on top of that, you're all obviously going to be getting lots of content. Plus, we're in the middle of review season now. It just started. You know, it's been full-fledged. I think absolutely everybody on team right now is working on a review, which is kind of nuts. kind of nuts.
Yeah.
So even though some of us will be away, everybody else will be hard at work pumping out the stuff like Mad Max reviews and all the Phantom Pain and all that jazz that's coming out. So it's going to be busy, 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 busy fall, and that's it's going to be so much fun. I'm really excited, and I'm glad we can bring you guys along for the ride through the podcast, through the website stuff, through Periscope, through Twitch, through Twitter, everything. So yay! That's what's up. Wanted to let you know that. With that being said, we are having Indie Spotlight Night this week. I will be playing Heroes Never Lose, which I didn't get to play the other week because I had some technical issues. So everything's good to go now. So I will be broadcasting that live right here on Twitch at 8 p.m. on Thursday. So come hang out, laugh at me. Because that's
I will. No more Battletoads?
everybody laughs at me. It's awesome, and I love being the butt of the joke. It's good. Please. All right, cool. So, first things first, let's get into what everybody's playing right now. So, Craig, you are our guest. What are you playing right now?
I've been playing a lot of State of Decay. That game kind of brushed past me when it originally came out on the 360, I believe. So I downloaded the Day One edition, and I've been playing a lot of that. I Twitch streamed some about a week ago, and I've been enjoying it so far. I find the gameplay, I think the more I play it, the more repetitive I find the game. I think that a lot of the side quests and a lot of the story missions are just sort of regurgitating the same sort of mission parameters. But I like the look and the feel, and I like the atmosphere of the game. And I'm not sure how much more I'm going to be playing that game, because with Mad Max coming out in a week, that's the game that's really got my attention. So, but yeah, I've been enjoying State of Decay. I think it's really good, from what I think.
Sweet. Kat Ashley, what have you been playing?
Well, right now I'm reviewing Gears, so I've been playing some Gears, which I can't say anything. Actually, no, I can say something.
Reviews are out.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit! Okay, well, I haven't played the multiplayer, so I can't review that. I have no one to play with. I haven't finished co-op yet, and the solo journey is fun, but kind of disappointing because it's not living up to how it did when it first came out, so it's kind of a bit weird. Anyways, I'll be like fleshing out my review tomorrow, so I'll be putting that out and be able to. Yes, Gears of War, the Ultimate Edition for Xbox One. Just by the way.
Cool.
I just want to interrupt you guys a quick second. We just got a $100 donations from Holy Crits, who just donated $100.
Oh wow!
You guys can hear me now live on Twitch. I just wanted to interrupt to say thank you, Holy Crits, for the $100.
Oh my god!
You just became top donator with one donation, so sorry, Craig.
Wow! Thank you guys.
That's
That was
amazing.
Amazing.
Rock, dude.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Without the S.
Thank you
But yeah,
very much.
Yeah. Where was I?
Gears.
Gears of War.
Oh yeah, Gears of War. Okay, yeah. So, while it's really, 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 it's still a fun game to play. It's not quite living up to how it did when it first came out. But like I said, I haven't played the multiplayer, which I think is going to be a big factor in whether people are going to repurchase the game or not. So until I actually play it, I'll be able to comment on it more. And aside from that, I've been playing Contrast. So
Contrast is so much fun.
I love that game.
That's why I'm excited for We Happy Few. Like, that game is going to be fantastic. The studio already, just with Contrast, has done great work. So I'm excited.
And cool 2001 inspired gamer achievements for Contrast too.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm very happy with that.
Yeah.
I was really, really pleased with that.
How about you, Catherine SD? What are you playing?
I just dove back into Forza Horizon 2 because Graf keeps taunting me with his fucking achievements. He passed me again on bucket list challenge, so you know I had to complete 2 or 3 of those to pass him again. Yeah, but that's pretty much it so far. I still haven't had time to play The Witcher 3. It's like I have no time to like really put myself into an RPG and just get all consumed by it. So I'm just gonna keep it for this winter, for like winter break when I refuse to leave my house.
Yeah, that's winter. That's winter in Canada. Yeah.
Oh, it's coming.
Me, I'm working on a review too. I don't remember, Kat, if I'm allowed to say that I'm working on it or playing it. Do you remember, Kat Ashley? I know I can't say much.
What do you mean? Whether you're, I think you're allowed to say you're working on it.
Okay.
I don't think
All right.
that's embargoed. I mean, kiss, like there's limits in life.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm reviewing Lara Croft Go, so that's in the progress. So that's what I've been playing. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
all
I
can say.
tweeted about that. It's
Okay.
pretty addictive, and
That's all I can say. Yeah, it's fun. All right, so let's jump into some hot news. First, right off the bat, everybody's getting excited about Mario Maker, and of course, with free control, all these different pieces that you can build, people are going to get creative. And what are they going to do? First, they're going to make replicas of other games in this game, right? Because that's what we all want to do, right? It's either that or they're going to draw penises. So somebody first off the bat made a Flappy Bird Mario Maker
Oh.
level. It's so hilarious, and it's in the underwater. Like, you have to watch it. First off, it's in German, the video. I'll put it in chat. It's in German, so the dude's talking, and I already don't understand what's going on, and he's drawing and drawing and drawing in Mario Maker, and then all of a sudden you have this level with the pipes and everything, because people know Flappy Bird got in trouble and had to be taken down because they had mimicked the pipes and stuff from Super Mario Brothers. And yeah, it's the swimming level, and it's really cool to see how he made this thing, and I can't wait to play it. I really hope it turns out it's shareable, and if it is, yeah, I will definitely stream that. It would be hilarious. So what other games are people going to mimic using Mario Maker? Anybody got any ideas? Like any like iconic levels you think they're going to try and recreate?
Oh, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna see some Metroid in there. Metroid Mega Man.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like other classic platformers.
Maybe like the roller coaster levels in Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Country
Yeah,
2.
that
That would be pretty fucking cool. I would play that. I would pay for that.
Leah, how about the Battletoads bike level that was the bane of your existence on
Oh
your
my
last
god.
stream?
Yeah, if someone remakes that bike level, I think I might. Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah, let's
Don't
not
do
go
that,
there.
internet. Don't do it. I'm trying to think now off the top of my head if there's anything else iconic. Anybody in chat got anything that you would want to say? Ha! Penis-shaped pipes in Mario Maker? Huh? No, I'm saying people will make them, construct them out of something.
Honestly, I would make something dirty in that.
It's going to happen.
Like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, I would, we would all make something pretty stupid in there.
That'd be pretty hilarious. Keeping up with the Nintendo news, we're getting Pokken Tournament finally. It's coming to North America on the Wii U early next year, and there's a new fighter announced, Pikachu Libre. So cute, Pikachu in like a luchador outfit. I love it. It's awesome. I can't wait to play this game. I think it's really going to be a good esport. I caught a smidgen of the event there the weekend, but I was mostly doing family stuff, so it was kind of hard. So I saw maybe like one 10-minute piece. That was it. Did you guys get to check any of the tournament out this weekend?
No.
And did you hear the news about the people that were in Boston that they
Yes.
people found guns, or what was it? Someone alerted the police that some dude was carrying guns at trying to get to the Pokemon event.
Like I said, are we surprised about this turn of events? Honestly now, at this point where, there was a fucking almost mass murder on a train, on a speeding train. Seriously, it sounds like an action movie from the 90s, and they got tackled by 3 US soldiers. So, like, are we surprised by this? No, absolutely not.
No, it's just sad to think that people will go to this length now.
Oh yeah, man. They will go to that.
And plus, it's Pokemon. Come on, grow up. I mean, don't bring your guns to this.
No. It's sad. I'm glad they caught them, and kudos to the people that pointed it out, because that could have been really, really nasty. All right, one more bit of Nintendo news. We're getting a Mega Yarn Yoshi. So not only do you get the cute little ones, and I've seen them and touched them and squeezed their little noses, they're amazing, but now they're making a $40 figurine that still works as an amiibo. It has a sensor in his foot, and he also unlocks some other stuff. You can save some of the the different color Yoshis that you create in game onto your Mega Yarn Yoshi, which is really neat. Plus, there's a Mewtwo amiibo coming.
Ooh, I want the Mewtwo.
Yeah.
Yes, please and thank you.
Craig, have you collected any amiibo?
I've admired them. Does that count?
You didn't put down hard money on them?
No, I did not put on. But every time I go through the store aisles, I mean, it is a license to print money. Am I completely off
Yeah.
base by saying that? Like, I mean,
No.
I look at people
It
going
is.
through them. And it's just, I think it's a brilliant thing that Nintendo's doing. I just think that it's got untapped potential to just go on and on and on. And
I
yeah,
have two, and I don't have a Wii U or anything that could.
yeah, there you
So
go.
There
So
you
That's the
go. There you
power
go.
of the amiibo right there. If Cat buys two of them without owning one, you know it's a powerful thing.
yeah, Catherine's wasting her money in life. But anyways, let's
But they're
not talk
cute.
about that. They are
Just go to the
cute. But
shelf though.
I have so many figurines and little doodads and Pichus that just sit there and gather dust. And then I go and I spend something on seriously something I can't use it. It's not even out of the box. It's just sitting there. I'm staring at them right now. Anyways. Whatever.
I love figurines.
Yeah,
They're
no, I
awesome.
love that
Who
too.
doesn't?
I knew Nintendo was going to make shit tons of money doing this. It was just like it was like it bound to happen. Bound to happen. All right, and last little bit of hot news. I know there's more stuff out there, but this is what I managed to track down that I thought was super interesting. I know it's been kind of like Mario and Nintendo heavy, but here's some PS4 info. If you would like to be a beta tester for the upcoming PS4 3.0 software, you can go sign up. I will throw the link in the chat. It from the PlayStation blog. Sorry if you're hearing my typing, but it's because I'm giving you links. I went and did it. So if you remember from last week, the beta testing or the 3.0 system update is actually supposed to have stuff like YouTube broadcast to YouTube capabilities, as well as some group community features and events features and all that kind of stuff. So here's your chance to like get in and see what all that stuff is prior to it actually being out for everybody. And you can give some feedback back to PlayStation. You think something sucks, you can tell them. They're actually listening then. So, yeah, I went and signed up. We'll see if I actually get it. I did get the PlayStation Now beta, so hopefully I'll get this one as well, too. Did you, Catherine, did you try and sign up for it yet?
No, not yet. I'm
No?
gonna do it after Purd.
Cool, cool. All right. So let's get into some topics. Of course, we've got Craig here, so we wanted to pick his brain because we've had a few video game themed movies come out this summer, and they've been kind of crappy. So we want to get. Pardon?
That's putting it bluntly. Yeah.
I politely. So Pixels I saw not so hot. Agent 47 went and read a bunch of reviews, and everybody's like, ew. So I thought it'd be a good chance for us to talk about video game movies and what they're doing wrong. And though we are all video game experts, we're not necessarily movie and cinematic experts. So that's what we asked Craig to come and hang out and talk to us about. So Craig, can you give us first your take on Agent 47 since you just saw it, and then maybe where you think things are going wrong in translating these like video games to the silver screen?
Well, I grew dizzy just thinking about how many ways that Agent 47 went wrong that I've got a headache just thinking about it. I mean, here's what I don't understand. Like, I mean, there was a Hitman film that came out in 2007 with Timothy Olyphant, okay? And so they got the writer, one of the co-writers of that movie, to co-write the new reboot. So it's like if you're going to do a reboot and you want to you don't want to simply just rehash the same material over and over again. If you want to have a fresh take on it, why would you get the screenwriter from from the first film to do this one? So I think that's a big mistake right there. I think the other problem with the film is that it just didn't command my interest in any real way. I mean, there's no real characters to really latch onto. There's no compelling characters. I mean, there's nothing really inherently dramatic about the material. I think stylistically, the film is awash in a lot of really wretched CGI overkill. Watching that movie, it reminded me a lot of watching a lot of mid to late 90s films that use a lot of subpar to awful CGI effects, especially in that post Jurassic Park era where like every film was trying to duplicate that film's success using computer generated graphics. And ironically enough, there were times where it did look like a pixelized video game because the CGI was so awful. Beyond that, it lacked even any semblance of humor. I think that film took itself way, way too seriously. I don't also think that it really captured the real essence of the Hitman video games at all either. Like my basic understanding of Hitman the game series is that it's really stealthy and it's about engaging in clandestine missions and like taking out your targets from the shadows. I mean, in this movie, I mean Rupert Friend, he's more like the Terminator. He's just going out like guns blazing, like blowing away everybody, and it's just it doesn't make for good action. It doesn't make for good intrigue, and I don't know. I felt empty. A lot of critics came out and called that film soulless, and that's a really good apt descriptor for that movie because it was really soulless. I felt empty and tired and depressed after I saw that movie.
Gratuitous, like action sequences when really the subject matter didn't call for it.
Well, it's kind of hard to label the action as gratuitous because I think that film primarily exists for its action and its violence. So I mean, it's not so much gratuitous. I just think it was the overall handling of the material itself, and the direction was really choppy, and the editing was just sort of spastic and all over the place. And the performances they were not on point at all. I actually went to the Hitman Agent 47 Comic-Con panel when I was in San Diego last year, and Zachary Quinto was there and a few of the other cast, and you could, no disrespect to them whatsoever, but you could really sense on that panel that they really didn't have any tangible desire to be there or really even talk enthusiastically about the film. And I like Zachary Quinto. I've liked his work on Heroes. I liked him in Star Trek, but I think here he's just he's so monosyllabic, and he's got that Christian Bale gravelly voice as the villain. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's a kind of film that you sort of just shake your head at a lot while you watch it. You're like, how could so many video game movies go so terribly wrong with adapting the material?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, do you think a big reason as to why, and I was thinking about this, as to why video game movies don't translate properly to the big screen, especially because most of them don't, unless they're horror films, unless it's House of the Dead, which doesn't translate well on anything, anywhere. But maybe it's because the story is secondary in video game creation, right? Because when developers create video games, its story is not their primary focus. It's mechanics, it's creating the world, it's creating the environment, so on and so forth. And story becomes, well, obviously, no, I'm sure they had a story in the back of their mind, but it's not as maybe well shaped as everything else in the video game is. Because I mean, like a game with really good mechanics can have a so-so story and still sell really well. And maybe it's that so-so story that just doesn't translate properly to the big screen. And that's why all video games movies suck big ass balls. You know what I mean?
I think those are completely valid observations. I think the other problem is, I think up until this point, we haven't had a high pedigree of talent in terms of directors and writers and maybe even stars work on these films. And I mean, with the possible exception of like well-established actresses like, say, Angelina Jolie in the Tomb Raider films. I mean, she was doing those films at the height of her popularity.
Even so, that movie was pretty crap, though, too. If you really
for sure, no, and I completely agree. I certainly was not a fan of those movies. But there has been, like Roger Avery, for example. Roger Avery won an Academy Award for co-writing Pulp Fiction with Quentin Tarantino, and he co-wrote the Silent Hill film. So there are cases where, and past precedent, where they've had some really established and strong creative people behind these films. But again, to your point, I do agree. I think sometimes the narrative thrust of games maybe takes a bit of a backseat in terms of the mechanics. But then there's something to be said about games and that have a built-in mythology and like a rich and detailed mythology. I shudder every time I think of the potential that a Peter Jackson and Neil Blomkamp directed Halo film would have had on the movie industry, and for giving the video game adaptation genre the much needed legitimacy that it so desperately needs in both the public eye and the critical eye. I still get weepy just thinking about the possibilities of what a Halo film with those two creative people at the helm would have been like. And that video game series is born and bred to be turned into a really long-standing cinematic franchise. But the end result of them not doing that was District 9, and that went on to be nominated for an Oscar. It's like one of the few science fiction films and brilliant film. So there's certainly some positives to come out of something like that not happening. I think the other problem too is I think a lot of video game movies, unfortunately, they haven't tapped into public eye and really into the movie-going zeitgeist. Like, for example,
they haven't or they have?
They haven't. Like, I mean, you have. I think the real litmus test that's going to come is when both video game fanatics and I also think when the general public who may not be video game fanatics or have never picked up a controller in their life will want to go and see these films. If you really think about the possibilities coming up, like you have Duncan Jones's Warcraft film that's coming out. Duncan Jones is a brilliant director. He did Moon and Source Code, and those are two of my favorite science fiction films of the last several years. So he has got sort of the directorial pedigree to make a really fantastic Warcraft film. And then there's Michael Fassbender, who's going to be in the Assassin's Creed movie. He is one of the most authoritative actors working today. So you have some legitimacy, built-in legitimacy right there with those people participating in these movies. And I think the real make or break for the genre is people to go see them. They have to be financially successful. Once they're financially successful and they're critically appreciated, I think Hollywood is just going to start churning them out like they did with all the Marvel Cinematic Universe films. If you look at the comic book superhero genre, like 20 years ago, it was not even a blip on the radar, and now they are churning those out left and right every year. That's, I think, where the next potential, successful video game movie genre could be headed. I mean, all you need is one or two bona fide hits, and then it's going to be like a snowball effect from there.
So what are they doing wrong now? Obviously, Pixels failed miserably and Hitman failed miserably. So where are they going wrong with the video game adaptations that they're doing right now, and how can they make them better?
Well, I will defend Pixels by saying it is the Avengers compared to Hitman. Okay.
What?
Pixels,
Okay, now that makes Hitman sound terrible. I mean, like I came out of Pixels and I was like, okay, I had a good few laughs. There's some holes in the story, whatever. And then afterwards, everybody's like ranting and raving. And yes, they all have valid points. And then I felt bad because I wasn't mad and I wasn't offended that they destroyed something from my childhood. I was like, whatever. I kind of expected it to be terrible. But that makes Hitman look ridiculous.
Well, see, I didn't find Pixels to be soulless. I mean, there was elements of charm to that movie. Like, it really, you have to understand, like, I am a child of the 1980s. Like, I was born in 1975. I experienced the video game craze of the arcade craze of the early 80s, and I witnessed the fall of the video game crash, and also the mid 80s. So I like the fact that Pixels was at least sort of an earnest and honest attempt to tap into the nostalgia of that period. That's an example of a video game movie, although not a successful movie, and not one done particularly very well. And there's a lot of flaws in that movie. That's an example of at least that movie's making an honest attempt to tap into the zeitgeist of video game culture from the 80s. And like, I appreciate that. I think where it went completely wrong was in its casting and in its writing. I hate to say this, but I found like Adam Sandler and Kevin James, like, they're just phoning it in that movie. It's just the humor falls flat. The best thing that movie could have done is if they kept it in the 1980s and had like the aliens invade in the 1980s, and then it would be the kids that sort of trained the military to thwart the alien menace. It would have almost had this sort of pseudo Goonies vibe, and that would have been a lot more endearing and entertaining for me. And like, you can tell that like James and Sandler, they're just in pure like paycheck grabbing mode. Like, they don't seem really invested in the movie at all. So I think part of it, in short, to answer your question, I think casting is key. I think also writing. I mean, movies can be made or broken based on the level of their storytelling and based on their narratives. And I think it's not all pomp and circumstance when it comes to like having a video game movie look epic and sprawling and visually dynamic. I mean, that's really important. Pixels is a success on that level. It is colorful and jubilant in a lot of ways. Like, Hitman is just dour and dark and dreary and just depressing. At least Pixels had fun with its visual invention, but a film like Hitman is just, like I said, it's just soulless and forgettable. And I think it really has a lot to do with casting and storytelling. But when is that shift going to occur? That's a very good question.
And it doesn't have that potential to become like, it's so bad it's going to be a cult classic, a bit like that live action Mario movie. It's just going to disappear off the face of the earth.
That Super Mario Brothers
movie.
That movie is so endearingly bad. Like, that's an endearingly awful movie, but it has a charm to it. There's certainly like you said, Catherine, it's like a so bad it's good charm to it. But I think I really
just like it generally as like I like John Leguizamo.
Yeah. Oh, he's also what other video game movies has he been in? Oh, anyway, I'm going off track. But I think the real tide is going to be get a real strong pedigree of talent on board to make these films. You know, a lot of film critics too, and I hate to say this, they are video game snobs. There's absolutely no denying that. The late Roger Ebert, you know, someone who's writing that I really respected and I admired, and you know, I really base in part a lot of how I write my film reviews on the way he wrote film reviews. He had a real personal engagement with his readers, but he was also an absolute advocate in terms of, you know, purporting this message that video games were not an art form. And I could not disagree with him more vehemently about that. I mean, there's absolutely no denying that video games are an art form. But you know, in defense of him, I think he's coming from a place of gross naivete and ignorance. I mean, he's probably a guy who never picked up a video game controller in his life. But I think there also has to be that critical respectability, and I think a lot of film critics just sort of, as soon as they hear video game adaptation, there's a certain connotation that comes in their minds. I'm certainly guilty as charged, but that's only because there's been so many awful video game adaptations. It's not because, you know, I'm a cinematic snob that doesn't love video games. I mean, my love affair is with the movies, but I've often cheated on movies with video games. Video games are my second love in life. But I mean, I want every movie I go see to be good. I went into Hitman with the most open of minds. I'm like, I really want to like every single movie that I go to see, and like a movie of the quality of that, it just made it so difficult. I just couldn't latch on to that at all.
So it makes me think then, what are the video game movies that we think have been good? I mean, right off the bat, Silent Hills, like that.
Yeah.
But that's one that like you kind of forgot it was a video game before. And I think because it was a horror thing, it was easy to grab onto in that concept. It didn't really have to rely on any of the video game mechanic of it. It was just a scary story. Trying to think of what else. You guys got any
What did you just say?
video game movies that actually like panned out to be successes? Like
And
I think Silent Hill actually turned out to
Even
be.
so, Silent Hill was pretty on the sharp side. I
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
Resident Evil is honestly one of the top. The first one in particular, it was one of the top like video games turned to film.
Mhm.
Honestly, I mean, it was great. It's a really good horror film, and I like zombies, so.
Yeah, Resident Evil
Scary.
were good.
Do you know what the single most successful video game to movie adaptation has been in terms of worldwide box office gross?
No, which
The Prince of Persia, with Donnie Darko himself, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh,
really? I forgot that movie
Yeah.
existed.
And
never
that
even
is
saw it.
shocking because I completely forgot that. And Gyllenhaal is one of my, you know, acting idols. I worshipped him in so many movies he's done recently, but you know, I can't remember one single solitary scene from that movie. And I saw that opening night, and you know, that's got a respectable actor, it's got a respectable director, it had a production value that could rival any of like the big Marvel Cinematic Universe films, but for some reason it was completely and utterly forgotten about. Like, I mean, a day after I saw that film, I don't think I could recall really what the story was about. I mean, it just wasn't. It was so prohibitively wasteful of the budget that went into that movie. Yet, but it was successful on a worldwide level. But yet, there's not been sequels. Actually, if you also look at the top five, two of the top five are Resident Evil films. Resident Evil Afterlife was the second highest worldwide grossing film. Lara Croft, the first Tomb Raider film, is number 3. Resident Evil Retribution is number 4, and number 5, everyone's favorite movie with Aaron Paul, Need for Speed, is.
Oh, really?
I still haven't
Need
seen
for
for Speed.
Oh.
No,
How-
I refuse to
how
see
could you
this
take-
movie.
How could you take an actor like Aaron Paul, who's so brilliant in Breaking Bad, and
How can
you
you
know,
take
watch-
such a shitty game to make a movie out of
that's exactly
racing
exactly it.
Well,
It's
no. This is what they saw. They saw the Fast and the Furious and wanted to jump on a bandwagon.
Exactly. Fast and Furious has been there, done that, man. They're making like Fast and Furious 24 now. Like, it's enough.
I'm okay. They can make as many Fast and Furious as they feel like.
I can't even.
Okay with that.
I forgot about the Need for Speed.
I
Mortal
actually
Kombat, the first one's really good though. That's one of my favorite.
Definitely not Street Fighter. I saw Street Fighter opening night at the now destroyed Pacific Cinemas here in Saskatoon, and I was one of, I think, 10 or 12 people that saw that movie opening night. That's another trend I'm noticing. There's a disturbing trend with video game movies. It's just no one is going to see them, and that dates back even to like the late 90s. And I was super pumped for Street Fighter because, you know, Street Fighter was one of my very favorite games for like the Super Nintendo when the arcade port made its way to home console, and I was like super. Oh, it's got Van Damme and it's got Raul Julia. It's got like a wow, it's gonna be great, and epically awful. Like it was just so abysmally terrible, and it's laughably bad. I mean, I urge anyone if you have never seen the Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme, you owe it to yourself to sit through this.
Bad movie night.
Yes, absolutely.
Bad movie night.
It's so bad. It's so funny.
Yes.
It's like the Mortal Kombat movies.
Yeah, but the Mortal Kombat movie had like, they had no qualms about what they were. They were like, hey, here's a movie. You're going to see people beat the shit out of each other in a very impressive way for the next 2 hours. Enjoy. And they just put the Mortal Kombat seal on it. And I remember seeing that movie and just being like, yeah, kick the shit out of them.
It was scary, though.
The Street Fighter movie, they were like, we have Jean-Claude Van Damme and a story and characters and an intrigue. And we were like, can he just drop kick some bitch?
And Mortal Kombat had that cool theme music. Let's not forget about that.
This music was
really catchy song, and it had Christopher Lambert, so from Highlander.
Oh, it's true.
So there's, but again, they made a series of sequels to that movie that were not quite so wonderful to sit through, though.
No, but I never see past the first one, anyways.
Yeah. All right, well then, let's get into our next topic, which is still on the movie front and still on video games. It's all the video game movies that are coming up. Can we be optimistic about what's coming up? Like, I'm a little nervous about Assassin's Creed with Michael Fassbender. Like, this kind of scares me. I mean, I trust Ubisoft. I trust whoever else is handling it to an extent, but it's like we don't have a very good record running right now. What can we do to keep this, from floundering to what could they do to keep it from floundering and keep both us, the, hardcore gamers, and the people who have never heard the Assassin's Creed brand before, never touched a controller for that?
I think Voice earlier made a very important comment, and I took note of it. He said, I like it when the games extend to the story of the game and doesn't just rehash a story we already know. Kind of why I have high hopes for the Assassin's Creed movie. It extends on the AC lore that's already established. So basically, they're not going to make, like Ezio and Friends, the movie. There's going to be like
Ezio and Friends, the movie. Can we make that, please? Can that happen? Yes.
Oh, somebody on YouTube make a series so I can watch it every night in 5-minute clips, please and thank you. But also, it's like we've seen it in the article that Catherine wrote about like everything Assassin's Creed but the games. Like they built a whole universe and they have a whole cast and crew of assassins and anything, so they can do what they want. I think also like that's where a lot of the the movie adaptation fails, and that's why like The Last Airbender was so fucking shitty. Like it was so bad that people were like, is this your favorite cartoon? I'm like, one of my favorite cartoons. And they're like, don't see it. And I looked at the trailer and I was like, no, I'm not going to ruin this for me. I'm not going to see it, because they're just redoing something that exists. If they had made the story of one of the other avatars, which by the way, every time one dies, there's a new one. So you have a bit of room for another story, just saying. Probably they would have been able to build something completely different. And if they want to go into the heavy and gritty, they can, because they're not dealing with Aang. Same reason, same thing I think that Voice is going with. And I completely agree. I'm like, don't try to do something that's been done. Stories in video games are written to be interactive, and they don't all work in movie form.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier.
Yes, and I agree.
Then how do we fathom how they're gonna handle Quantum Break? Do you remember Quantum Break? The one that's going to be a game and a TV show at the same time? Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like I'm so bad with names. What was that movie? Was it The Division? No, I'm thinking of
Come on.
The game, Defiance. That they did like a television show side by side by the game. I don't know if anyone remembers. That was a few years ago, but that flopped pretty spectacularly. So I don't know. I don't like the whole idea. Like, I'm not gonna. Do we have to play with it's gonna be interactive as well? You're forced into that shit?
I don't know a whole lot yet. I've seen some play demos of it, but I mean, it has the guy who plays Iceman in the
Sean
X-Men
Ashmore.
movies. Shaw
Sean
Ashmore, that's
Ashmore.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can play alone without the TV show, if you can watch the TV show alone without playing the game, or if they're
Hopefully.
like fated to be stuck together. So
Ooh.
I guess we shall see on that, but
Because I'm
it
really
makes
excited
me
for
nervous.
Quantum Break. Alan Wake was one of my favorite fucking games ever. And if they screw up their next title. Anyways.
That sounded like a
Continue.
horse.
Maybe I am a horse. Just maybe.
Oh my god.
It
Little crazy.
just scared my cat.
Ooh, I need to put on the air conditioning soon.
All right.
Getting
So
hot.
besides that, what other video game movies is there written to be, or do we know of? That's supposed to come out in the near future. I can't think of
Warcraft.
anything else. The Warcraft. Oh yeah, watch that trailer. Holy crap, that looks just like a cinematic that belongs in a friggin'
Yeah.
Blizzard game. That doesn't look like any form of a movie at all.
And yeah, see, that's where I guess my spider sense for the film's quality is kicking in a little bit. And now one thing to keep in mind is a lot of footage that comes out, in either teasers or trailers, especially far in advance of the film being released, is not finished final product. So you have to really kind of consider that. But there has been, so I've been reading a lot of press about the film in terms of it, like its overall look and its sense of artificiality. And I hear what you're saying, Leah, because that could be a bit of a turnoff for me. Because I think if you look at films like, let's say, Lord of the Rings, for example, which married live action and computer effects and practical location shooting really, really well. I'm hoping that Duncan Jones can do the same thing with the Warcraft film, but a lot of the footage that I'm seeing has not really demonstrated that to me. So I am very cautiously optimistic because like he's really, I think, a terrific director who I think has got good instincts. But I don't want the Warcraft movie to just look like, like you said, like an animated cutscene, because I think that'll really take you out of the movie.
Totally. And what I had seen there too was like there was no reference to story or character. So
No,
anybody who didn't
no.
know, anybody who, well, mind you, when they showed it was for diehard fans at
Yes.
Comic-Con, that kind of thing. So I understand why there was no context. And the people who were in the room who were supposed to see it, this was obviously leaked footage, they would have had context. But like if you're somebody going in it that doesn't have any idea, either didn't play Warcraft, played very little, or is totally unheard of, they're not going to reach as far as they can. But obviously that's not the purpose of the footage that we saw.
Oh, for
So-
sure. I think it's for wow factor more than anything else. I think they're just trying to like look at what we're doing here, and that's fine and dandy. But I mean, what else can we be expecting from these movies? And I certainly hope they're not like pigeonholing the film to be like another potential Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings has just a rabid, centuries like old fan base. That, I mean, those are one of the reasons why those films were successful. And even though the Warcraft video game series has a tremendous following, I mean, you still have to get lay people to. I mean, there's people that I know that went and saw Lord of the Rings who never read the books and never watched a fantasy film in their entire lives.
Mhm.
You need to get those type of people into the theater. Same thing with Assassin's Creed. I'm almost a little more hopeful for the Assassin's Creed film, primarily because of Michael Fassbender. You don't get an actor of his relative quality easily. I mean, he's sort of a guy that really meticulously picks his films, and he's very critical of what he picks. So I think he obviously sees, I mean, outside of course of getting like a big fat paycheck, I think he's a potential interest in the material. I think in terms of marketing, I think the best thing they could do with the Assassin's Creed film, and not to demean its video game origins, but to maybe emphasize the science fiction elements of the film and the historical elements and the cast and so forth. And I think that would really help sort of put it in the public eye. I mean, because ultimately movies are a business and you want as many people to go to them as possible. Video game fans, obviously, people that have never played video games before. And again, that's really what needs to happen for these films to be successful and for future video games to be made. I mean,
I think any video game franchise that dabbles in like any transmedia content would probably make for a much better film, kind of like Assassin's Creed. And Halo is another thing that would make it really well, because their stories translate to comic books. Just
Yes.
short films. I remember we're already okay. First of all, the one by the Ridley Scott approved series that came out. I don't know what the hell.
Is that the red versus blue thing?
No. It was recent. It was supposed to be Ridley Scott, but then it wasn't Ridley Scott. But Ridley Scott
Night
Scott apparently like approved it or backed it or I don't know. Just
Nightfall.
yeah, is it Nightfall?
Oh yeah, Nightfall.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why I gave him a
It's
bunch
on
of money
Netflix,
just to
so
put his name there. Yeah, it's the
yeah,
worst thing ever.
yeah.
But you know what I mean? And then there was also the series that came out with Halo 4. I can't remember the name again, but that was actually good with the kids.
Forward
I was
Unto
like,
Dawn. And
Forward
you
Unto Dawn, that's it.
you
Yeah.
recommended that to me, Kat, and I watched that about a day after you did. And I'm like, man, it's pretty good. Like, I mean, I look at that series, very character driven, very insular, really focused on the youthful characters, and it had
Mhm.
action that complemented it. And I'm kind of like, fuck, that's how you do
Yeah.
a video game adaptation, even though that's done on a smaller scale. I'm like, that worked really, really well.
Yeah, no, I think Halo would have well, I'm biased. I mean, Halo, I have it tattooed on my fucking neck, but you know, that would make it pretty that would be a pretty good video game to jump up
You know,
on and make it.
in reference to your points though about properties that branch out into like movies, comic books, you name it, if I ran the movie world for a day, I would go straight to Disney and I would say, you have uh, a potential huge film in making a Star Wars standalone Knights of the Old Republic movie based on the old BioWare game for the Xbox. I played that game, and to me, I think that has a storyline that can rival any of the Star Wars films. It has an entrenched mythology. It has a built-in mythology for Star Wars fans and people that are not video game fans as well. That game had plot twists that I think would rival anything in The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, that would be not only a license to print money, to use that expression again and over again, but I think that would be an example of a hugely successful video game to film franchise, which also happens to be a part of the larger Star Wars, cinematic universe. And I'm amazed that when they're announcing all these standalone films, they're like, young Han Solo. I don't give a shit about like the adventures of the 18-year-old Han Solo. I really don't want to see a movie like that. I would rather see a movie like Knights of the Old Republic or something that taps into a mythology I've never really experienced before on screens.
But I think that game probably benefited, and the reason why it has such a strong story is it had so much to go back on that were story driven to begin with,
Mhm.
and they were probably forced to make sure that it was a solid story because anything that comes out with a Star Wars label has to be canon.
Oh yeah.
So that had to be super. They had to be super tight with that. Unlike going the inverse, where if you're taking something that has a lesser focus on story, not so that there's not in video games, but there's
Yeah.
just as much balance on story as there is mechanic and gameplay, and trying to just turn that into something that's totally passive, more difficult.
Yeah.
Mm.
What about Mass Effect? I remember when you and Kat and Voice and I wrote that blog together about the most
Mhm.
cinematic video games ever made, and like my personal choice was Mass Effect. That has such a rich mythology. That has there's a density to the mythology in those games that could rival Star Trek or Star Wars.
Hmm.
There is so much, again, untapped potential to make that video game series into a series of successful films that I think would be popular.
Didn't they announce it or they're planning on making something with Mass Effect?
It's been on and off.
I might Google something.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of chatter about making a Mass Effect, film series for a long time, but again, it's failed to materialize. But I really think that's another really strong popular video game franchise that I think that could be done justice with the right people behind it and with the right actors in front of the screen as well.
Well, that was some great talk about video game movies and stuff. Thanks, guys. If you guys want to continue this conversation, I want to give some chance to have some questions answered if anybody has questions. But what we could do is continue the chat on Twitter, the Girls on Games on Twitter. Sorry, with all of us, and we can continue to keep that going because obviously, it's a hot topic because it seems to be in the norm. We're going to keep continuing to see video games getting formatted into different things, be them movies, be them comic books, be them whatever. So just, knowing which ones can be adapted, which can't, and how they do and how they fare to non-video game people or connoisseurs. Is really interesting to see how this will play out and how it will all play out. So if you guys got any questions for us, that'd be great. I know, Craig, you're usually the ones tossing the questions in there for us.
Yes.
So maybe you guys have some questions for Craig, questions for Kat, or myself. Just let us know. I don't know if you saw any in chat. Did you, Catherine? SD?
I put one in the dock.
Oh, you put one in the dock. Let me scroll down.
Sorry,
All
what's
right.
That's buzzing.
Yeah, does anybody hear the buzz?
I hear a buzz.
All right,
Yeah, I do
everybody. Oh, it's gone. All right, don't know what happened.
We're good?
Random buzz. Random buzz. SM3 Gaming wants to know, do you think Nintendo will ever catch up to Sony PS4 and Microsoft Xbox One? I'm just curious if you mean in quality of game, maybe console sales. I'm not sure what you mean by catch up.
As compared, like, because I mean, Sony and Xbox One are very like niche in the sense. Well, no, I should say that Nintendo is niche versus the two others who get to have like big name games on their things in Call of Duty, and it's competitive. Whereas Nintendo, not so much. But honestly, to answer that question, I think it will be with the new console that's supposed to be coming out. I think that's what Nintendo's going to be pushing for, and whomever is going to be announced as president, which I don't think they've done that yet, is probably going to try and do that way. I mean, it doesn't work anymore, that whole like really small niche market. They can do the niche market and expand, to make their console more well-rounded, kind of like Xbox One and
Yes.
Yeah. I think the thing is if you flip back, like console generation prior, Nintendo was on top of the world, and they just made a few blunders. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, obviously the Wii U is not what the Wii was, and it'll take them, they got to figure out what they did wrong and go for full force when they do the next console. Craig?
Has anyone been reading the articles about they patented a discless? I read about that.
Yeah.
Social media a couple days ago. That to me is kind of tantalizing and fascinating. I mean, going forward, a discless Nintendo system, I'm not sure how that would fly, but
What's wrong? I love non-physical media.
Me
I mean,
too.
it sucks when it comes to the thoughts of like what we often do is we trade games so that everybody gets to play it within the team. But when it comes to getting a code to review, and it seems to be more frequent that we get codes now instead of physical copies, it's much better, except for sometimes when they don't like to download. Right,
Yeah.
Kat?
Oh God. Anyways, I can talk about that now. Holy
Yeah.
shit. Anyways, but you know what? That's why Xbox One, with their initial announcement, was kind of brilliant in what they wanted to do. Yes, there would be discless. Yes, it would all be virtual shit. But you'd have up to 10 friends you can exchange games with freely. I have 0 friends to exchange physical copies of games with. You know what I mean? So if Nintendo were to implement something along those lines, I think it would be fantastic, and yeah, and I agree, Paul. It does suck for collectors, and I am a collector to a certain extent. I used to collect films. Now I don't anymore. I used to collect. Now most of my games are on a hard drive, and I used to be like, oh, this kind of sucks. Actually, not really. It doesn't suck at all. My shit doesn't get scratched, which I scratch everything. I don't lose stuff, and it's easier for me to transport. We'll say if I go to my parents' house and I want to play on my dad's Xbox because I have nothing else to do there, I bring my entire, external hard drive and I plug it in there and I get to choose whatever game I want to play without having to bring a disc with me as well. So I think that there's a lot of really good potential. It's just something that's shifting. Maybe they should offer, you can like options for collectors, but I don't even know how that would work. Actually, forget it. Scratch that.
See, I'm an old fuddy-duddy because I'm the old one of this group, and I'm like, I love collecting. Like, I mean, I am a Blu-ray collecting whore. Like,
We've seen the photos.
Yeah, like, I mean, and I just, having said that, though, I'm also desperately running out of space in my apartment for my collection. And I completely hear what Kat's saying, though, about the portability of the media and, just being able to, to transport it wherever you really want to go. I like being able to, I like the old-fashioned allure of just sort of going to a shelf and cruising through the shelf and looking at your stuff and all that stuff. But going forward, though, and it also depends on where you're situated. Like, I mean, I have a lot of friends who live in remote areas of Saskatchewan who they just can't walk into a store and pick up a buy video game and pop it in their system and play it. I mean, they rely on digital downloads. So I think proximity is another factor that should be considered, in going forward with digital media.
It's funny you say that because there's usually the inverse problem where people are saying, "Oh, but in those areas the internet's not strong enough." But now you're saying it
Yes.
actually works in their benefit because they don't have to leave their houses because it's too hard to get to the stores. This is interesting. All
Uh,
right, cool.
oh,
Oh, Kat, did you have
yeah, I just
something?
want to add something because someone said something here. SM Gaming said it's a lot more expensive for codes because the only places that would give the codes would be the store of the console, which I think that would make it actually cheaper if that was the case. If it were to be monopolized by one, selling point. Because I mean, like we'll say like if you remove the EB Games, you remove the Best Buys, you remove like
You can't though.
secondary. But we'll
You
say you
can't
do.
remove them.
Let's
But
say
how,
in
you
a
can't.
they would go out of business without physical. Because what would it do? Best Buy sell a
Where
code?
do you get your console?
Oh no, I'm not saying eliminate the actual stores. I'm saying like the games would not be sold there anymore. You know what I mean? Because if you go
Yeah.
for computer games, most of the computer games there's maybe like three. There's special editions at Best Buy. That's basically it. But like a lot of the games you buy them on Steam, right, for computers. And if you were to centralize that in Xbox One store, Nintendo store, and all that, that would probably be a lot cheaper. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it would be cheaper for the cross console games because they can do a price war that way. But like, have you ever tried to buy a used cartridge or disc of any Mario Kart or Legend of Zelda game? Like, I bought the Twilight Princess like 2 years ago when I got the Wii U, and it was like $60 new.
Okay.
So I think it's not about like where you're gonna get it. Like it's gonna be like, can I only get it for this console? Like if they can have that exclusive and they can pump up the price and people still buy it, yes, they'll do it. But they're doing it right now with physical discs, so they can do it with codes. I think it'll just be is the if the game when it comes to the codes, it's going to be the same thing. Like if Steam is having a sale, are they doing a humble bundle? Is it the PS Plus game of the month? Is it
Yeah.
a rebate with gold? That's how I'm going to pick where I get my
It's true.
game.
No, you're right. In retrospect, you're right.
Yeah.
It could be very, very tricky to centralize that into one selling point. Fuck, I
But
suck
we
at
also
economics.
but we also have that problem right now, even with physical game, because Nintendo has the monopoly on these much loved games that people are still going to pay $70 for, even
Mhm.
though the game is 5 years old.
Can I make an
So
observation about cost? Sorry to cut you off,
sure,
Leah.
that's okay.
I think video games are, in my opinion, are not nearly as expensive today as people think they are. My very first console that I bought was the Sega Genesis, with my own money, was the Sega Genesis back in the early 90s. And I remember paying $50, $60 for my copy of like NHL 92, a cartridge-based game for the Sega Genesis back then. And I mean, average retail price now is 69, 70, I think it's $79 or
Yeah.
74.99 in Canada. So if you're, I mean, that's a lot of years. And
What
like
inflation on that?
I'm just shocked that games haven't skyrocketed in price in the last few years. I mean, granted, $75 or $75, that's still a lot of money, but I certainly remember spending money I didn't really have on cartridges back from my Genesis in the day.
Oh, it used to be very expensive when I was
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
But that's when you had no adult responsibilities. It's like, oh, I'll
Yeah.
take my Turbo cash. My first job was working at Turbo. It's like, I'll just take my whole paycheck and I'll buy like 3 or 4 cartridges and have fun for the rest of the 2 weeks, and then I'll get another paycheck and buy more cartridges. I didn't have
Classic
rent,
parents.
food, anything I had to worry about. So
SM3 Gaming says it's not cheaper. You can't get stuff like collector's editions. They're actually doing that with collector's editions now, where they give you a code in the box.
Hmm.
So yeah, they're
The
doing it
future.
now. It's not that hard,
The
but I think
future.
the key now is shelf space. Obviously, it's cheaper, and the sites can't undercut what's in the retail stores because they need the retail stores because they sell the consoles, and it's this infinite circle of nobody can go just straight digital yet, except if you're on PC. But then that's a whole other can of worms. Ha!
And for
All right.
people that don't have a credit card, you go to the store to buy the like the gaming cards, like to buy the PSN
Yes.
money and the Nintendo points, and then bring them back and then buy your games with them.
yeah,
So
good point.
Another question comes from Voice Music. Craig, he wants
Oh.
to know what made you get into movie criticism.
Oh, hello, voice. That's kind of funny because I remember when we were out at we were in Chinatown when I was in Montreal, and we were all sitting down, and actually Catherine was asking me that question, And I think it really boils down to I was maybe tired of just arguing with my friends about movies. It's such a like going to movies is such a peculiar social pastime. Like you go to movies, you hang out with your friends, and then you just sort of endlessly, at least with my friends, you just sort of endlessly debate the content and engage in like, some semblance of meaningful critical discourse about the movies that you see. And I remember one of my friends at one point, way back in the early 2000s, and this was sort of, when I wasn't like really serious into film review writing, he just said, "Why don't you put your reviews online and kind of go from there?" And I'm like, I have no fucking clue how to like, do a website and publish and all that and all those types of things. And so I kind of like, okay, well, I'll start, back in 2004, I'm like, all right, I'll start reviewing, I'll start going to a few films and I'll start reviewing them. And of course my friends kind of joked, if you make it to like 40 or 50 reviews, we'll buy you a pizza, or they're just mocking me mercilessly, and that it kind of just sort of took off from there, and it's really become almost kind of an addiction for me. It's like, I mean, I usually screen, if I can, anywhere from 2 to 4 films a week while we're working full time, and then posting, to my website, and then of course that sort of snowballed into my work with CTV, and I do their program and I review films for them, and I mean, it's kind of remarkable. I never ever once thought when I published my first review in 2004 that I would ever be on live TV talking about, the art form that I love the most. Like it's really surreal in a way. It's such a humbling thing, and that's basically it. It was like my friends dared me. That's basically what it boils down to, and it's kind of just continued on from there. So, thanks, boys.
Sweet, it's a great story. It's a great story of your friends pushing you to do something, and then
they stole mocked
out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
That's fun. Our friends mock us when they don't understand our video game stuff, but that's okay.
Oh, it's
we get to do this.
Ooh, someone wants to be president, Craig.
What's
Check
that?
the voice.
You can't check the chat. It's true. Voice is like Craig for president.
Oh, voice, you're my man. Yes.
All right. Well, I think that is all the time we have for this evening. I want to thank everybody for coming to hang out with us. Thank you very much for the donations. Thank you for the follows. Craig, thanks for joining us. If people want to hear more and know more about what you do and all the things you're talking about movies, where can they check you out?
They can check me out on my Twitter page, where I sort of mercilessly tweet endlessly, and I'm really sorry because I tweet way too much. But it's my handle is my name. It's Craig Coban. When I was on Twitter, I started on Twitter. They said, "Why don't you use Darth Craig?" And I'm like, well, no one's going to be able to know where to find me, and that's a cool handle. And I'll just go by my name. And now everyone complains that my handle's boring, but it's at Craig Coban on Twitter, and my website is craigerscinemacorner.com. So thank you for the plug, Leah.
No problem. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. If you guys, of course, want to know more about Girls on Games and what we do, and follow all the fun coming out of Fan Expo next weekend, you can check us out at our website at girlsongames.ca. We're on Twitter at The Girls on Games, at Facebook at The Girls on Games, Instagram The Girls on... No, that was just Girls on Games. I keep them all confused. YouTube, if you want to watch our videos, we're going to be posting a lot of our most of our Fan Expo stuff is going to end up being video. So that's going to be on YouTube. Plus, we put all of these podcasts on there. And you can also, if you want to, and you feel like, listening on the go, we have the podcast on iTunes. You subscribe there. But, of course, we always broadcast live here on Monday nights at 8 p.m. So thank you for joining us for another Girls on Games podcast. We'll see y'all next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, gals.
Thank you.
Peace. We're out.